Well, Joe, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed for the Diebenkorn Catalog Raisonné of the Prince. I'm just delighted to be here in your studio, surrounded by the art that you're making now, and memories of past projects that you've been working on or have worked on in the past.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to go back in memory lane and talk about you actually as a student in Southern California. You took a BA and an MFA in Southern California. Did you grow up in Southern California? Are you a...
Yes, I was born in Los Angeles. Actually, my BA was at the University of Denver.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. And then I studied printmaking under Jules Heller at USC.
That was it. Okay.
And but the real learning occurred at Tamarind.
How did you hear about Tamarind?
Well, Heller mentioned me, I'm sure, to June Wayne.
Okay.
And I'm sure June was looking for people who had experience in lithography.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that occurred.
But when you came on, you were given the title Printer Fellow. What did that mean?
I didn't know that until after I left Cameron.
Okay, so...
I just assumed I was a learner.
And I think, is it not true that Tamarind wanted to teach you, even if you knew something about printmaking and lithography, they wanted to sort of teach you all over again?
Yes. Boleslav Horak was one of the greatest master printers, I think, who ever lived in lithography. He did magic.
He was Czech-born and had worked in Paris
That's right.
in lithography before he came to Los Angeles.
That's right. He was born in Prague in 1914, and he died in Paris in 1989.
89. Oh, you have a good memory. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I revered his ability.
And so how did it work? You came in as a printer fellow. Were you there with a number of other printer fellows
Yes.
For some training?
Yes. Ken Tyler was there briefly, and there were several others. Names I can't remember. Some stayed longer and some left.
And then you were introduced to Richard Diebenkorn, who was there as an artist fellow, I guess is what they were called.
That's right.
And he came in 1962. But after a stint in 1961 for a sort of informal fellowship, and he had worked on one print with Joe Funk.
Yeah.
But he returned in 1962 to work with you,
Mm-hmm.
and he did quite a few prints in that time.
That's right. And
were you able to choose Richard Diebenkorn as your? No, you were assigned.
no, June was she was pretty tough. She said, "Okay, you work with him, and you'll work with him." You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And at the time that you were working with Richard Diebenkorn, were there other artists working with other printers at the same time? How busy was the studio?
Usually only two, because Cameron in LA was not that big.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been too crowded.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually two people. June was busy picking artists, and some agreed to it, some didn't. I remember she invited Jacques Lipschitz, and he just walked in, and I have a print of his. He said, "This is my signature, Lipschitz."
And that was his art for the day.
That was it. He just walked out.
He just walked out and never came back.
That's right.
Well, I imagine Richard Diebenkorn was a lot easier to work with.
Oh,
Yeah.
Diebenkorn was a human being.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, that's interesting that you say that because I always have gotten the impression that he was committed to a project from the get-go. He wouldn't have agreed to do something, wouldn't have been there if it didn't interest him, if he didn't think that somehow he would grow from it or learn from it. Did you find him approachable in that way, that he came in sort of ready to explore and work
Yes,
with you?
absolutely. His approach to the work was very intense. I appreciated his dedication. You know, he was in the process of growing.
As an
This is retrospectively looking
Yes.
back at it.
Yes.
I definitely understand more about him from that experience. His use of the figurative against something more abstract, you know, was the figure was against something that I saw developing in the New York school,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he had been through a period in Berkeley where he was working in an abstract vein.
Yeah.
But in these early prints, he's returned to the figure.
Yes.
Almost all of them at Tamarind are figural.
Oh, yeah.
Did you find that he wanted to work directly on the stone? You were working on limestones, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And did he draw directly on the stone?
Oh, yes.
And was that a requisite of working at Tamarind? You had to work. You couldn't bring in a drawing on
yes,
transfer paper.
Oh, yes.
Well, you could.
You could do that. But as far as I remember, he worked directly and was able to have his work printed under Boleslav Horrocks' direction, very accurately. Yeah.
And he was pleased with, you think, with the results.
Yes. I think he and I liked each other. You know, you have to like each other.
Yes, the chemistry has to be good
Yeah.
between you and the artist
That's right.
in order to make a successful
That's right.
print. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I know that in the prints that he made with you, he was, I should say, an artist fellow signed up for a 2-month residency at Tamarind. But Richard Diebenkorn decided that he would only devote about a month to it. He was just very much involved with his teaching. He didn't want to take that much of a break from his painting. So he was there for only a month, but he was very productive. Do you remember any sort of pressure from him to produce within a month, or?
No.
Okay.
If there was pressure, he concealed it.
Well, he did some very ambitious things, and I'd like to talk about this color lithograph, this 4-color lithograph that he produced there.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be based on a stone that may have existed from the previous year when he was there briefly for, I think, 2 weeks. And he created some stones, but they were never fully realized. And so there is this black and white version of a piece that later became 4 colors with you.
I don't remember that one.
You didn't print this. This was Joe Funk.
Oh.
And we think he printed it in 1961, but it was issued in 1962.
Oh.
I should say the stone was prepared in 61,
I see.
but it was,
Yeah, this is something that Joe did.
what's that?
That's the edge of the stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He printed that.
Yeah.
Was that encouraged at Tamarind?
No.
No. That was messy.
Yeah.
That was sort of messy.
That's right.
But that was his way.
Yeah.
And in the color print, did you taper that edge a little bit, or?
I think this is another stone. This is another stone.
Oh, could be. In
Yeah.
that it looks like this was a crayon, a litho crayon stone, but then this looks like touche wash.
I'm sure.
The black.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the red.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's hard to remember exactly, but I know I didn't print that.
Okay, so that would have been Joe.
Yeah.
I also see some areas in here that I don't see there, so it looks like certain parts of the stone were cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah. This is very similar,
Mm-hmm.
but this here, I don't.
Yeah, he could have adjusted it and
Yeah.
Wiped out a lot of things with that heavy wash in the back.
Yeah. We did crazy things like transfer to transfer and
Oh, you did?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's what this could have been.
Yeah.
There might not have been a stone hanging around. It might
Yeah.
have been
right.
an image that was hanging
Yeah.
around. Okay, well that makes sense.
Okay.
And that answers my question. Here's another one that we have in the collection, and it's a portrait bust of M.W. Do you remember who M.W. was? It's a very strange portrait. It doesn't look like one of Diebenkorn's models,
No.
and I can't figure out who M.W.
And this was done
This was done at Tamarind,
in 65.
62.
62.
Mm-hmm. When
Okay.
you were there.
Okay. Printer's proof. Usually there's a stamp. I have a stamp.
Yes.
Um,
Many of our things aren't stamped,
mhm.
especially when they're proofs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. There's a drawing underneath. Of
Yes.
a hand.
Yes.
And,
Something else was erased
yeah.
and then drawn
There's
over.
another figure in the back
Mm-hmm.
that was probably sanded or wiped off, and then this superimposed.
You remember him doing a lot of changing and correcting immediately on the stone?
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was his way of working
Yeah.
in painting and in drawing
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah. And those corrections became interesting areas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this drawing or this print.
This print or this
Mhm.
person. He worked from his mind, his imagination. He didn't bring in study drawings or things. Do you remember him bringing in any?
In San
Drawings
Francisco,
to
when I
reference.
worked with him,
Yeah.
Phyllis was his.
Was the model? She was
model.
right there in the
Right.
studio. But
Right.
at Tamarind, there were no
No.
models. This would have been, he either was working from a photograph or from a memory.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he did a couple of landscapes also in that first
Oh, yes.
Tamarind, and these are quite beautiful.
Yeah.
One of them looks to be crayon,
Yeah.
mostly crayon, and then this looks to be touche.
That's right. And that's Horrocks forte.
Oh, really? Okay. So you had to, for you, as a young printer fellow there, when it came to doing something and an artist wanted to work with touche, it was sort of, would Horrocks step in and say,
No.
"Watch me, Joe," or
No.
okay?
No. Well.
How did that
Oh,
work?
yes, when we were printing,
Okay.
but not when he was working.
Not when he was working.
No.
Okay, so Diebenkorn was allowed to use whatever he wanted.
Because Horak had that ability to reproduce any effect. It was amazing, and I learned from him. So that when I went up to San Francisco, I had that ability to preserve these grays and subtle transformations in the drawing.
Do you remember that was important to Diebenkorn, that whatever he put on the stone, he wanted to see printed as a proof? When you were in the proofing stages, would he?
I don't think he ever said that,
Okay.
but I'm sure he was appreciative of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember him ever sort of rejecting what it was in a proof stage, when you were just pulling some things off the stones? Do you remember him saying, "Oh, that's no good. We got to start over again. Give me another stone"?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
But maybe my 93-year-old memory is.
Well, it would have been, I think, the atmosphere of the shop. I get the impression that at Tamarind things were pretty controlled and economical in the sense of time and materials, and that you didn't play around. You went into work and you didn't waste opportunities.
Well, we tried not to waste materials, that was for sure. If something didn't work, we had to stop and say, this is a short edition, it stops here.
Okay.
Or we'll reject the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know that that at Tamarind they were very interested that you, as a printer, would understand and communicate the different kinds of papers that could be utilized in printing lithography.
Yes, I learned a great deal about paper from June and Horak, and was able to take that information north.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And to your knowledge, did Diebenkorn sort of let you go with those choices of papers for the prints, or was he involved in the selection of?
I think sometimes he was involved because of the color of the paper. Some BFK, for instance, is white, and some is toned, and Arch BFK, and then there are different color, high-quality papers.
Right. And did you have such a selection at Tamarind in the early 60s?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, that must have been exciting to
Yeah.
sort of choose those things. You know, I find it interesting to look at the variety of lithography that came out of that first session. And I was reading something that Diebenkorn wrote about the session, which really surprised me, because I thought that the 9 prints that were published or produced then were pretty amazing for that early period. But he wrote that, and this is a quote from him, "Most undistinguished work has been stone to arch paper, and I don't enjoy much of the process, which has remarkably little parallel to my work with canvas or paper."
Mm-hmm.
And I find that a strange comment, because you and I have spoken about how we think it did have a parallel, a clear parallel, and
well,
it seems to be a great enjoyment of working in different ways on the stone, but it sounds like he was dissatisfied.
Well, he had not had much experience with printmaking, I think, before
That's right.
Tamarind.
Yes, that's correct.
And when was that statement made?
It was made shortly after the I think it was 62 or 63.
Well, I think that probably he reevaluated it. If he had
Mm-hmm.
commented later, I think he would have felt differently.
Well, I want to agree with you
Yeah.
because he went on to work with you in San Francisco at Original Press, and he approached the works there with great gusto and interest and enthusiasm. Okay. Well, before we leave Tamarind, I wanted to ask about was there any encouragement to do a four-color print at the same time? I mean, most of the prints that were made in that session
I
were
think June decided
black and
that.
white. Oh, she wanted.
Yeah.
Did she say, I'd like to see a
Yeah.
four-color print from you? Was it part of the working experience? I want you to get this experience
Well,
doing
I'm sure that was part of it, but I think she wanted Dick to redo that image in color.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she could dictate that. That's pretty
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
She was pretty tough.
Yeah, and the artists were sort of like, yes, yes,
they-
ma'am.
She was the general, and they were lieutenants.
Okay. But you didn't get any sense from him that there was dissatisfaction with the process, frustration with the process.
I don't remember that at all.
You were both learning and
Yeah.
growing and
Yeah.
seemingly enjoying the process.
I think he would have changed his mind later.
Well, let's go to a little later to Original Press.
Okay.
Or is there an interim? I know that you and Joe Funk got together and
That
established.
was in L.A.
Yes,
At the Joseph Press.
right, the Joseph Press. And was that a short-lived enterprise?
It was pretty short-lived. I can't remember how many months, but I know we worked with Sam Francis and I can't remember who else.
I think you might have worked with Ed Boucher. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was a short period.
Okay.
Joe Funk and I met at USC.
Oh, really? You knew each other before Tamarind?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we were both studying printmaking. I was originally a painting candidate there, but I kind of loved what I saw happening in Jules Heller's workshop.
Mm-hmm. You got the bug.
Yeah, printmaking, and I learned etching and engraving and woodcut, linoleum cut, and even monotype, which was looked on as something rather inferior.
Yes, it wasn't until much later, in the late 60s, that there was interest in the monotype. Did you, well, tell me about coming up to San Francisco. That was a decision that you made. You left Southern California, moved to San Francisco.
Yes. Eva and I decided that we had been to San Francisco and we liked it. It was a much more, I don't know, it felt good to be an artist in San Francisco.
Yes, in the 60s.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a teaching opportunity or anything like that? You just came up and decided to establish your own press?
Yes. I decided that, Eva and I decided that we would, we looked around for a shop that was available. We found the shop on Minna Street,
Mm-hmm.
and we lived on Wetmore Street. And I don't know if it even exists anymore.
I'll have to write that down because I'm not sure either.
It was almost a 45-degree angle street that you went up to the very top, and there was this little tiny house that was right on the edge of a cliff.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
And you couldn't turn the car around. You had to back it down the street. It was quite amazing.
So you established a press, and I read in an article, I think, that it was originally called Proof Press
Mm-hmm.
and then changed to Original Press.
Yeah,
Was there a reason for
I
that?
can't remember.
So the press was on Minna Street,
Mm-hmm.
and was your idea to invite some of the artists that you worked with at Tamarind?
I knew Dick was teaching at Stanford,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to work with me.
Yes, he remembered.
Yes,
Oh, that's good.
and I had matured as a printer. I could do anything that those guys could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so he visited the shop, and I said, yeah, let's do it, you know.
Okay.
And and that's where he brought Phyllis. He set up a curtain and made drawings.
Yes.
Some on the stone, some on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So it was private. You know.
Okay.
And then we would work together. I had only stones. I didn't like the plates.
Right. Okay.
And he did Cup and Saucer.
Yes, that was the first one.
Wonderful print.
Yes. Here's a reproduction of it.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about that here? Because this impression that we have in the Achenbach is without a crack. And tell us the story about how the stone cracked, and then tell me if I'm right that Diebenkorn said to continue printing that the crack was fine.
It is a remarkable work. It fits in with a number of other drawings and paintings of objects that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the sketchbook material that was at Cantor?
I did, indeed. And I went through every page that they had on the video monitor. Yeah.
Marvelous.
This did he set up a cup and saucer with a knife on it in the studio, or was this from his own memory bank for this
I
image?
think it was his memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a perfectly beautiful gray lithostone. It did crack, but it didn't bother me and didn't bother him.
Did it crack because of the pressure of the press?
There was a weakness in the stone that we were unaware of.
Okay.
Yeah. And after so many printings, proofing and so on.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Well, this, for years I used to think of this almost as a monotype. It's so richly printed in that kind of blue-black ink.
Yeah.
Would you suggest ink colors to him? Like, let's use a blue-black, or let's use a brown-black.
He asked me, what he would do sometimes is make a mixture and ask me to duplicate that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So it was a collaboration of that sort.
Were you the only professional press in San Francisco working in lithography at that time? I know he worked with Catherine Brown doing etchings, but she was over in Richmond. She was over in Richmond at that time, or Berkeley, Oakland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he worked with her, but
not in lithography.
not in lithography, right?
I'm trying to think. I don't know.
You know that there were some folks at San Francisco State, but that would have been university affiliated. And then there was the Art Institute, again, an art school,
Well,
but
you
professional.
know, he
classes.
studied with the guy in the famous artist, Mark, at San Francisco Art Institute.
Oh, let's see, Wesley Chamberlain? No,
No,
Sorry?
oh, Stannis Artist.
Still?
Clifford Still.
Well, he was there when Clifford and Moscow were there.
Yeah,
Um,
but was there an artist who did litho there?
what's wrong with my head?
Well,
Um,
Don't-
he's the one who was responsible for Dick's work in the beginning.
oh, David Park.
David Park.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
It was right there all along. We knew it, yeah.
Well, David Park was his teacher,
Right.
and I remember a photo of Dick working at the Art Institute. I remember there was a party which I was invited to, but I didn't attend, in which John Hofer, do you remember John?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, as a name,
Yeah.
I didn't know him
He
as
was
a
a good
person.
artist,
Yeah?
but an alcoholic.
Oh,
And we became friends. He played the violin, and I played the flute. And unfortunately, at that party, his violin playing was not appreciated, and so he broke it up on the floor
oh my gosh.
at the party,
Wow.
and he saved all the pieces, and he glued them back together. So he glued this violin together, and of course it lost all of its
Resonance and,
timbre.
yes,
Yeah.
right.
And so when he played across the strings, you could hardly hear anything. Anyway, that's
It was wild and crazy times then,
yeah.
but not at Original Press, I imagine. So these are some of the other prints that were made there at Original Press,
Yeah.
and they appear to be Phyllis, seated in the chair.
They are.
Yes,
They're all Phyllis.
they're all Phyllis.
Yes.
And there was a kind of director's chair or something.
Yes, we had this
Yeah.
folding chair, which was a wonderful, how to say, it was a beautiful way of producing an environment.
And it lent itself to casual sitting.
Yeah, and it was just beautifully designed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This is another one.
yeah.
And it looks like there she's seated on a bedspread or a
Yes.
couch or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
we brought a couch in.
And there's this one.
Yes,
And now, is that Phyllis?
yes.
So she would disrobe and pose in the nude during
Well, I
those
never
sessions?
saw Phyllis in the nude.
Right.
She
She
was
was
always
behind the
behind the
curtain.
curtain, yeah.
Okay. And was he drawing? Did he have the stone in front of him, and there'd be Phyllis posing?
Sometimes he'd have the stone there
Okay.
on a little table,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a tall fellow,
Yes.
so he could sit and see what he was
Right.
doing.
Right. Okay. But again, he worked directly on the stone.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. And then there's this one that is a very complex
yeah.
very complex.
Yeah.
And she's seated in more of an office chair in that one, not the director's
well, we had
chair.
an office chair.
There's this one, Joe, that doesn't have your chop. It has another chop on it, and I haven't been able to.
Frank?
Who would that have been?
Frank. We call this the nose picker.
Sorry, the what?
Paula Kirkby.
The nose picker? Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Paula Kirkby refers to this as
the nose picker.
Referred to it as the nose
Oh,
picker.
for heaven's sakes.
Frank Birkencotter.
So it was a B.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look it up. He's probably in the annals somewhere.
Yeah. Do you know the edition number on that?
It's many of the ones that we have are proofs.
Oh, proofs.
Yeah, and some of them say proof 1 or artist AP or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of proofs that we have of prints that relate strongly to the work that was done at Original Press, but we don't have a date for them, and we don't have a press assigned to them because there's no chop. They were apparently never editioned. And this is one of them. And I'd like to show it to you with another one that was done at Original Press because it has a very strong resemblance. And I'm wondering if it might have been done at Original Press, but then never beyond the proof stage.
Well, I like it.
And it's inscribed EXP period P, which to me means experimental proof.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's another figure.
Yes. And it looks like one of the legs might have been crossed at one
Mm-hmm.
time. Yeah. And there's quite a bit of erasure.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember
You don't remember
but I'm sure there were. That was an intense month, you know.
So he worked there for about a month.
Yeah.
And did he come in every day?
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
And did he work a full day or?
Yes.
Wow.
We'd go out to lunch together.
Uh-huh.
And Frank Lundell came up to San Francisco, and I printed for him there too.
Okay.
And I printed for him at the Original Press. And Frank and Dick and I would go out to lunch, and then come back and he'd work. And we had a very good relationship.
Okay. All right.
It was wonderful.
Here are a couple of others that we don't have dates for, and I wondered if they looked familiar to you at all. They're not signed. There's no chop on them. They're about the same size as the...
This is very familiar.
Is it?
This couch.
Yeah.
The table.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many different drawings that he made.
Yes.
I wish I could help you there.
Okay. But they don't look familiar from Original
No.
Press. All right. How about this one? This is a very large lithograph that, again, has no chop. And it's related to one that is dated 1967. So it would have been after his time at Original Press, but I wondered if it looked familiar to you.
No. I wonder if...
Who else was printing in San Francisco
after 67.
in 67?
I got a job teaching in San Jose,
Right.
and I moved and lost contact. I like it very much.
I do too. So it remains a mystery for now.
And it isn't signed,
No, there's absolutely nothing on it.
but it's very identifiable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even.
Yo, to be sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's Phyllis. This is on newsprint, and I wanted, and it's dated 1967. And I wondered if, I wanted you to talk a little bit about proofing on newsprint. Did you do that at Tamarind
Yeah.
to sort of get the stone warmed up kind of thing?
To save paper.
Yeah. But typically you would throw those things away.
This looks a lot like Anne Morency. Do you know Anne Morency?
No.
Frank Lobdell's first wife.
Oh, okay. Would she potentially have been a model?
Well, he worked at Stanford, but I don't know when he worked, when he left Stanford.
Right. Well, that's an avenue I'll pursue then.
It doesn't look like Phyllis.
Okay. Yes, and the dress
Yeah.
is different from any of those that show Phyllis
Anne
depicted there.
Anne was much more decorative.
Okay.
Yeah.
She wore more colorful pattern things.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to original press, there's a story that is told about these Diebenkorn prints that we rely on you to tell again to get the details straight.
I wish I could remember all of it. It was a horrible thing.
I'm sorry to remind you, but I think it's important in terms of what happened to this edition. Well, first of all, let's get back to the whole idea of creating prints at Original Press. You were the press. Were you also the publisher? And did you sell them for Diebenkorn, or did they go through a gallery?
Memory that I had a certain number of prints as payment.
Okay. For doing the job.
Yeah.
The rest belonged to
Diebenkorn,
and then he could market them as he wished, perhaps with his gallery.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the prints were stolen.
Were they your prints that you had taken as payment?
Yeah.
I see. So they would have been proofs, APs
Well,
or
there were some that were part of an edition.
edition numbers.
Of
Okay.
100.
All right. And they were stolen.
Yes. And they were recovered a year or two later, as I remember. And there was some damage to one of the edition of 100.
Okay.
And there's a hole in the leg.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I still have some of those.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And I'm intending to get them repaired eventually. It's very expensive.
It is very expensive, yeah.
Um,
They are valuable prints, however, so it might be worth the expense.
Yeah. There was no damage other than that.
Okay, well, that's good.
And
I heard a story that Paula Kirkeby tried, that she handled them for a while and may have sold some from that stash.
yes.
You had made an arrangement with her to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
She was my dealer, and she was a wonderful person because she was more than a dealer. She was person who had such wonderful perspective. Did you know her?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, she was a force.
Yeah.
She was really a force. Yeah.
She died within a few months of my life either.
Oh dear.
I lost the two most important women in my life.
Ouch. That's so sad. I'm sorry. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but she was able to save the day.
She could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I know that one of the outcomes of the session at Original Press was a very close relationship between you and Diebenkorn, that he appreciated you as an artist, not just as an artist, or what do they call it, Tamarind, an artisan printer,
Mm-hmm.
that he respected you as an artist. He knew that you did your own work, and
Well,
you told the story that's in a magazine article that that he and Frank Lebdell invited you to come down and join their drawing group at Stanford, but that Nate Oliveira said no.
well, actually, his wife said no.
Oliveira's wife?
Mona.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Mona said, no, he's a printer. You can't do that.
Oh, boo. Oh, yeah. So she was biased in that way,
Yeah.
which is so unfair considering Nate's background
Yeah.
and the
I
fact that.
think Nate would have been happy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently Mona was in charge of his career.
Oh dear, it was her decision, as it
Yeah.
turns out. But you, anyway, you took a teaching position, you closed the press,
Yeah.
and you took a teaching position
San Jose City
San Jose
College.
City College. Okay.
And I taught drawing and life drawing and printmaking there for 19 years.
19 years,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
And I was able to work when I taught at night. I had a whole room to myself, and I used that to make drawings. And I drew in the class. And
Along with your students?
yes, I always drew to show them certain things. I never drew on their paper, but I used to show them
Yes.
how to draw a
Yes.
hand or a foot
Yeah,
or
correct.
a nose or whatever.
Sure, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Did you learn anything from working with Richard Diebenkorn? Did you glean anything about, did anything sort of influence your own practice as an artist or as a printmaker?
Yes, I did. I learned a great deal working with him. He was a man who was a born teacher. He was very kind and considerate, and sorry that he smoked so much.
Did he smoke while he was working on the stones? When he was working?
We couldn't have smoking in the studio.
Because of all the flammable
Yeah.
liquids and things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also because nicotine eventually affects the quality of the paper and stones. And,
Oh, really?
oh, sure, it's a poison.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, when you go to people's homes who've been smoking indoors for years, everything has a kind of a brown stain on it.
It's terrible. I have a friend who is a smoker, but fortunately, she smokes outside. But if she's smoking 10 or 12 feet away, and the wind is just right, I can't take it.
Yeah. At the time when you were working with Diebenkorn, would he take smoke cigarette breaks and
Yeah.
he would go outside?
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
was
that got in the
also
way.
smoking.
Oh, you were smoking too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody smoked.
So you could join him for a cigarette break
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Walk down the street with cigarettes. And, I think even in the cafe.
Oh, sure, in those
Yeah.
days, most definitely. Anything else about working with him that might have influenced your art later on? How about working with all those different papers at Tamarind and then working at your own press with them?
I have since collected lots of different papers for my own practice, and I used to have a press in my house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a living room. I have a studio.
Really?
Yeah. And I gave the press to Davis because I can no longer do all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of strength to operate those.
What was the question?
The question was about working with different papers.
Oh,
You were exposed to them at Tamarind, and
yes,
then
yeah.
I assume that original press, you probably had a selection of papers that were your choices for the work that was produced there.
Yes.
And then in your own practice, I think you made paper, didn't you? You made
Yes.
some paper constructions and
Yes, there's a piece up there.
yes.
I have that piece, and well, I have a lot of paper that I made. I had, in this area, I had a paper pulper. It's a big piece of machinery, and a tank where that table is, in which I had water and pulp, and I had molds, paper molds, and I had a table where I pressed the paper. I have tons of paper I've made. But that, became physically difficult.
Oh, yes, exactly. It's like cranking the press. It takes a lot of upper body strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I agree. I've heard this before from other paper makers.
That's right.
Yeah.
This table over here was also a vacuum press.
Oh, okay.
So I would lay the paper down on that and pull a vacuum, pull the water into a tank.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
And I still have that with the intention of doing it with other materials. But I don't know if I ever will.
I just heard a report today about an international conservation conference that took place this summer, and the hot repair that paper conservators are now involved with is paper pulp casting for repairs. For example, if there's a piece missing in a corner of a print or a drawing, they actually cast paper and thread it into or feather it into the torn piece to create a whole sheet again. And then they do their little in-painting or whatever, but it's basically paper making all over again, of the kind that you were just describing. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that the demon corns that I have, which have holes, they're not all the way through. They're just
Oh, that's
when
okay.
This fellow stole the work, he wasn't very careful. Apparently, he put it down against something and went through.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
What's interesting was that he stole them, but he didn't do anything with them. He kept them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did.
Yeah. That's a very strange thing.
Uh,
Now, when you closed Original Press, did it live on as another press?
I rented that space.
Mhm. It wasn't affiliated with Collector's Press, was it, with Ernst de Soto? That was something separate?
I think that's something separate, yeah. I know,
Okay.
I knew.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Just,
But as far as you were concerned, it was
yeah,
done.
yeah. I was glad, because I was already 40 years old, or a little older, 41 or something. And, that was hard work.
Very hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and hard to keep up the business side of it too.
Yeah.
I think it's easy enough to work with an artist in the creative process, but the actual proof printing, as you say, and then the sort of marketing of it and making sure that you've got a roof over your head.
Absolutely.
Those are all concerns that are necessary, but not much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's very true. So it was a relief to, the printmaking I did at City College was um, something that I thought maybe I invented, I don't know. It's called, I called it, which I don't do it anymore. I called it, the process is making an image on a plate surface with very soft eggs, oil-based.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that image looks okay, taking a roller with with harder ink, stiffer ink, and rolling over it.
Oh.
And the image is picked up on the roller, but also there's an image on the plate.
Right.
And I can show you an example.
That would be fun to see. But before we do that, before we get up, I want to ask Andrea and Dick and Carl if they have any questions for Joe that I might not have covered, or some territory, some specific print.
Very, very thorough. It's been very good.
Well, Joe's been amazing because your memory is really sharp, and it was easy for me to come up with questions because you had answers. It wasn't.
Oh, good. I do have areas that are difficult, especially words, and very familiar words.
I don't think that has anything to do with age. I think it's something we all deal with.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered everything.
I think so too. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome.